Back, everybody. Collaborating is never easy, is it? Whether it's across disciplines, across sectors, or across borders. But in order to thrive, in order to do the utmost to achieve what we are set out to do, I think we can learn from the very best practice that we have at hand. So now we'll embark on a session where I'm actually going to learn from the best practice when it comes to university collaboration. We have some history, we have some long-standing experience from the early 1990s, but we will also be looking ahead. So, first of all, we will be listening to those who have studied northern issues at universities. So please welcome Maren Fleischer, Viola Ukla, Eldon Shashar, and Rajit Kumar Kalve. They are bachelors of Northern Studies at the University of UiT, the Arctic University of Norway. Please.
Welcome to our presentation about studying Northern issues at the university and through Barents cross-border cooperation and workshop lenses. My name is Maren Fleischer and I'm a first-year student from Norway.
And I am Viola Ukkola from Finland, also first-year student.
Hi everyone, my name is Eden Shachal and I'm a second-year BNS student from Israel.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. My name is Ranjit Kumar Kalevar. I am from India. I'm a third-year BNS program student in UIT campus Alba.
We are proud to represent the Bachelors of Northern Studies program at UIT, the Arctic University of Norway, and serve as Barents Euro-Arctic regional ambassadors. Here in the BNS program, we believe in the importance of cooperation and creating knowledge in the North, for the North, by the North.
With our study, we get a different possibilities and ideas regarding the North, as we, for example, study environmental changes and their effects to peoples and nature. BNS studies also gives opportunities to make a difference with the knowledge that we learn during our studies, workshops, conversations, and readings. UIT is one of the few universities in the North, giving people living in the North more opportunities to stay in the North. As what comes to me, it is one of the reasons of applying the BNS program, getting an opportunity to stay in the North during my university studies. Also, program gives myself, as a student from the North, a possibility to study issues relevant to my life and livelihoods up in the Arctic and see complexity behind them and issues connected to my everyday life, and thus getting opportunities to have influence regarding those issues in my future. We must also emphasize that students in BNS program are privileged to get to study about the North and indigenous issues in indigenous homeland.
When studying Northern issues at the university, there are different perspectives and courses. Here we are in an indigenous area with both an international and multicultural classroom. Theoretical approaches are used to study real-time case studies and contemporary circumpolar issues. There are exchange opportunities in the universities in the Arctic, and the goal is to create change makers to advocate and work for the circumpolar North, its land and people.
As part of the BNS program, the students at UIT take part in various cross-border collaboration workshops, where we experience people-to-people cross-border cooperation through the Barents Arctic Network on Higher Education, which was initiated by Peter Hogseth and Urban Rockberg from UIT, and includes many of our partner universities across the Barents region. We also have access to joint education and practical experience opportunities, building trust and good relations within the Barents region, based on shared experiences and joint work with our partner universities and their students. learning the realities in the Barents region from one another and from practical experiences, such as the workshops in Kirkenes that will be elaborated on later. Understanding and sharing complex Arctic issues with analytical and critical thinking. And we also learn how to use and apply an interdisciplinary approach towards the Barents region regarding political, cultural, historical, and environmental issues. During October 2020, a unique workshop was held in Kirkenes for the first time as part of the Barents Arctic Network on Higher Education, where students from Petrozavodsk State University and Murmansk Arctic State University teamed up with the first and second year BNS students from UIT. The theme for this workshop was Barents Borderland Realities, and the 2021 workshop will be elaborated on by Ranjit later on in the presentation. A third workshop, which we will not mention in our presentation, will begin in Kirkenes tomorrow morning with the participation of some of our old partners and some new ones. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the participation of our international partners was limited to online meetings, while the Norwegian students were physically present in Kirkenes. Throughout our time together in October 2020, we took an active part in an international cooperation promoting peace and stability within the Barents Euro-Arctic region and Barents Arctic Network on Higher Education. We experienced borderland knowledge making with Petrozavodsk and Murmansk University students, from which we learned a great deal regarding the Norway-Russian borderland and created 4 concluding presentations on the following topics: extractive industries, sustainable environments, indigenous peoples and minority issues, politics and security issues, and our conclusion was that shared knowledge, trust, and dialogue are important for region building and development processes in the Barents region. As previously mentioned, during the 2 CBC workshops that were held in 2020 and 2021, the Norwegian students were physically present in Kirkenes, while the Russian students connected online due to COVID-19. This resulted in a creative collaboration and a new approach to joint research and group work. During the second workshop in April 2021, some parts, such as excursions and field trips to remote locations, were not streamed online due to technical difficulties. I personally had a very unique experience, as the Russian student that worked with my group has already worked with me in the previous workshop, and we have already established a good relationship. During the formally not streamed parts, when we walked around Kirkenes town center and went on excursions, I broadcasted most of the events to our Russian student via video calls on VK, which is a social network platform that can be seen as the Russian version of Facebook. This resulted in an even closer personal relationship between us and a better collaboration on the final group presentation, as our Russian partner got to experience the workshop almost as if she was there in person. The Norwegian students also benefited from her online presence, as she asked questions we did not think about, which enriched our conversations and gave us a different perspective on northern issues we studied in the workshop.
When designing a good policy for the North, it is important that everything hangs together. The second CBC workshop held in April 2021 regarding high North scenarios and regional realities, governance, innovation, and development in the northern communities. It is all about international cooperation with Barents Euro-Arctic region and Barents Arctic Network project supported by University of the Arctic. We did comparative analysis of Arctic policies, including youth policy, in cooperation with the Russian students from Petrozavodsk State University and Murmansk University students, where Russian students participated actively and showed a lot of interest in working with us. At the end of workshop, we had a presentation on development in the region, including the Arctic Railway, infrastructure, and development of modern northern communities for today and tomorrow, and a 24-page report, Making Business and Innovation a Regional Reality, High North Entrepreneurship Through Governance, Business Planning for Local Businesses as a case study, and the governance theory using Sorvarangar Kommuna. But at the conclusion of the workshop is that human capital would increase whilst protecting the Arctic assets and maintaining peace and stability. Future research needs in circumpolar North are health and quality of life, climate change and environment, youth involvement, indigenous issues, gender balance, infrastructure and regional development, natural resources. Potential outcomes that we find through this BNS program include the cooperation of business, public, and education together in the in creating creation of value and competence development. Value creation and sharing knowledge across different levels of government, education, and private sectors with fresh student eyes, people to people. Inclusion and consultation of youth in processing and decision-making in the North. Positive outcomes are including strengthening and protecting of identity, culture, and diverse communities relating to inclusion of life in the North into the Norwegian education curriculum. Through our research interactions, we identified the need in developing competence in the High North with focus on innovation and technology with a sustainable mindset. Cooperation at one stage of the value chain, such as this meeting, supports the development of a stronger framework for resource management and job creation. Across many industries, when many eyes near and far look towards what the Arctic has to offer. Sharing experiences from BNS program, being a BNS student, I explored challenges regarding local, regional, and national development theoretically and draw upon cases from across the circumpolar North. Listening to different perspectives regarding indigenous issues, health, climate change, and environment. I also learned the importance of interdisciplinary approaches and real-time and up to the minute data collection and report writing in collaboration with multiple actors with the ability to harness innovation and entrepreneurship mindsets, ensuring a more sustainable choice. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for most valuable reflections. Dialogue and trust, that's a couple of the take-home messages, as well as the need for interdisciplinary work, because that provides us with a variety of perspectives in order to address complex challenges, obviously. Now we will move from the bachelor's level to early career researchers. That is the doctoral training program, so it's the third cycle, as we call it. Training of early career researchers within a joint project and the International Academic Mobility Program. Please welcome Alexei Kangas, please.
Hello, dear colleagues and dear friends. My name is Alexei Kangas. I'm third year PhD student of Northern Arctic Federal University. And today I would like to share with you my experience of international scientific cooperation and the results of this cooperation. My research focuses on wind energy, so my presentation is called Wind Unity. We have a strong collaboration between the two universities, Northern Arctic Federal University and the Arctic University of Norway, which of course exceeds the 4 years shown on the slide. But for me, it started in 2018 with my first internship in Norway. I was a first year master's student. Since then, I'm happy to visit Norway every year, even in such difficult times. I was in Norway in 2020 and 2021. And now I'm third year PhD student, a long journey from first year master to third year PhD. My first 3 internships were about 2 months long each. These were scientific internship in which I worked with scientists, professors, students, did research on the topic of wind energy. You can see names of projects that included student mobility. And the last internship was funded by the Ministry of Science and Higher Education of the Russian Federation to study abroad. And the duration of this internship was 1 semester, 6 months. It was also a scientific internship to perform scientific research. And first of all, I would like to say thank you to my university which gave me opportunity to participate in this collaboration. My department, where I study and work, the Department of Industrial Power Engineering, and my supervisor, Doctor of Technical Science, Professor of the Industrial Power Engineering Department, Pavel Mariandyshev. And on the other side is the Arctic University of Norway. During my research work in Norway, I was supported by the Department of Construction, Energy and Material Technology and the Department of Industrial Engineering. I'm grateful to everyone in the departments, but especially to my supervisor in Norway, Professor of the Institute of Industrial Technology, Mohammed Virk. This collaboration gave me a lot of opportunities. First, the opportunity to work in modern laboratories, to use equipment such as ice and wind tunnels to conduct experiments on the icing of wind turbine blades, which is an important and relevant scientific task, the solution of which will expand the use of clean, renewable wind energy in the north. The study of such technologies will lead us to sustainable development, of course. I also worked in software that allows you to simulate the operation of wind parks, calculate their performance, and determine the effect of icing on wind turbines. And probably the most important opportunity is communication with students, professors, and scientists on the topic that you study. The opportunity to learn and share experience cannot be overestimated. New colleagues, friends, that's what I got as a result. But if we are talking about scientific results, we have jointly published 2 articles in Scopus journals. One of the articles is now under review, and one more article is in development. We jointly participate in several international projects, such as wind energy, joint innovation solution for the future energy needs of northern regions, Safe Wind, Northern Axis, Barents Link, and others. On the slide, you see the results of our scientific work on the assessment of wind resources of the Northern Territories. And I look forward to continuing our strong cooperation between the Northern Arctic Federal University and the Arctic University of Norway. Thank you.
Thank you. It's obvious that we need to collaborate over technologies that also will provide us with greener solutions. Well, that is if we're going to have a sustainable future also up north, for sure. And thank you for your contribution here, demonstrating obviously also the collaboration where we can make the best possible use of each other's technology and infrastructure. Now we will move to the next presentation, which is about a project called Bridge. It's about enhancing young people's entrepreneurial skills and the employability of them. Obviously, we know that the critical thinking and analytic approach is very important at university education, but the creativity needed to come up with solutions are also as important, I'd say. So, to take us through this, Associated Professor Peter Fischer and Ms. Julia Shestova. Please, the floor is yours, or the screen is yours.
Thank you, and good afternoon, and thank you for having us here. We are now presenting Bridge. It is a project with focus on graduates' employability. My name is Peter Fischer. I'm the project manager at the lead partner, the Arctic University of Norway, and my colleague,
Julia Shestova, Head of International Office at Murmansk Arctic State University and Russian Regional Bridge Coordinator.
Project partners are 5 universities located on Kola Peninsula, in Troms and Finnmark, in Lapland, Karelia, and St. Petersburg. Our project, as mentioned, is about enhancing employability of our graduates. We started asking small companies, simply put, what do you think of our graduates? We asked, as your first-time employees. The answer, simply put as well, first-time employees coming from universities, they have a good knowledge, but lack important skills. From day one, they should be able to solve business problems as a member of multidisciplinary teams. They must be able from day one to interact with international customers and team members, and they must do so also remotely in an online world. So in order to practice such skills, the 5 partner universities created a learning environment. International student teams and companies meet online and offline. Teams get an assignment and work for it for several weeks. In the end, they online present proposals to the case companies. Sorry, we are running Bridge over 6 academic semesters. Each semester, one of the partner is responsible for the semester session and for contracting up to 10 local companies. Julia will tell us more about the project design. But first, we will give you an impression of Bridge in a 5-minute video.
gained so many skills and knowledge from my teammates and coaches by solving a real-life case.
So Bridge project gave me an important experience on working in a team on big and indeed interesting projects. I think I've opened up some new areas of interest for myself, and it was a great experience overall.
And it's a really empowering program for the students that pushes them to push them to think of ideas, push them to be more creative and thinking out of the box.
It gave me a chance to work in an international team for 2 months, to meet new people from different countries, to develop my soft and hard skills, to develop my professional skills as well, to practice my English, and the whole project was extremely useful for me, so thank you all.
Stakeholders such as the students, partners across borders, and the regional enterprises.
working with young people in the international team was really full of fun, and it was really nice experience, and we got a lot of new ideas, and some of that ideas we now actively using in our daily work.
На самом деле это помогает и раскрывает, скажем так, потенциал студентов, у которых очень много креативных идей. А мне, как руководителю, это, конечно, помогло, может быть, в каком-то другом ракурсе взглянуть конкретно на работу нашей компании.
As seen in this video, the BREACH project is beneficial to all the stakeholders. From the student's perspective, BREACH is effective. It develops competencies, skills, and knowledge needed to live and work in the globalized world. The basic approach in this project is collaborative learning. Students from 5 partner universities are divided into groups of 2 to 4. They solve real business cases of companies. The students are supervised by coaches, professors from the partner university. You can see the structure of the program in this slide. The online kickoff, weekly online meetings, 1 week on-site session, and followed by a final online presentations. The on-site session includes face-to-face meetings with commissioners and other activities. Such approach supports and encourages students. They work together, they invent, innovate, and create knowledge needed to solve real business problems. The students mentioned a pool of competencies that they developed through the BREACH. You can see them in the slide. All of those have to do with entrepreneurial thinking, awareness of global trends, innovations, and discovery. To conclude, the BREACH project equips students with the right competences that employers require from university graduates. Peter mentioned them in the beginning of his presentation. Moreover, by establishing student-business relations through the Barents region, the project helps to keep the young people in this area.
Thank you, Julia. Let's complete our presentation with a few lessons learned. We learned a lot, but first of all, the structures of our institutions play a critical role. Let me highlight 3 areas. First, the degree of project integration into curricula. For the majority of students, the project has been an extra to their ordinary studies. But if we want to make project a lasting tool for the university itself, we must establish stronger ties between projects and study programs. Second, project integration into curricula allows a more effective allocation of human resources. The most valuable source of bridge power is self-determined teachers. So project participation should be part of the contracted teaching in R&D work rather than an amendment, what often is the case. And third, partners cooperate differently with the local industry. Some do it more formally, managed by the administration, and others build long-lasting personal relationships between teaching staff and company owners. They integrate companies even in class. This latter way seems more suitable in order to develop mutual expectations and shared goals over time. The world of education is diverse, as we know, but we think that through implementing these basic insights from Bridge, partners will come even closer to each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that very interesting presentation with respect to the Bridge project. Obviously, we need to bridge. And also you've underlined perfectly, elegantly, how the 21st century skills are so important for us to communicate and provide our young students with. Now, we will have a look at the perhaps oldest running cross-border collaboration we've had in the circumpolar Arctic region. It is the Charlotte Academy that has been up and running since 1991. So please, Professor Lassi Heinonen.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me to present the Charlotte Academy. After a month, 25 early career scientists and a few senior researchers, including myself, will start the first session of the Charlotte Academy 2021 in Rovaniemi. And then from there continue 5 other locations in Norway and Sapmi, and come back to Rovaniemi. The theme of this year's Charlotte Academy is new and emerging trends of Arctic governance, Arctic geopolitics, and Arctic research. And we will concentrate on issues like Arctic policies and new technologies in the sessions in Rovaniemi, environmental conservation vis-a-vis exploitation in the sessions in Hetta. In Kautokeino, we will discuss about indigenous food and Sami films. When being in Kirkenes, the themes are sustainable investments vis-a-vis policies of Arctic policies of Asian states. When we stopped for briefly in Sevettijärvi, we will learn more about the Skolt Sami today. And finally, when we will be in Inari, which is the so-called capital of the Charlotte Academy world, we will discuss about tourism and collaborative Sami research. If I can ask the next slide, please. No, this one. So here is a map covering most of the so-called North Charlotte area, big part of the Barents Euro-Arctic region. And you can see there the typical route of the Charlotte Academy. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, this year we cannot go to Russia. And like we all know, different countries have different corona restrictions when trying to cross the borders. And the difficulty for us is that our group is very international. So we have students, early career scientists, not only from the Nordic countries and Russia, but also from North America and Central Europe. This time, no one from East Asia, because again, it has been so difficult to come and be able and allowed it to cross the borders. However, we cross the borders still even this year. When we start from Rovaniemi, and then when going to Hetta, then of course we cross the border between the southern part of Lapland and Sapmi. And then when going to Kautokeino, then again, we are still in Sapmi, but we cross the border between Finland and Norway. And then via the Finnish Lapland, we travel to Kirkenes, and we'll cross again a few times the borders. And that has been very important part of the Kalot Academy, that we don't so much talk about borders, national borders or other borders, but we cross them. We experience what does it mean. So if you should describe what is the Kalot Academy, it is first of all a traveling symposium with participatory approach and transdisciplinary discussion, where we have not only early career scientists, senior scholars, but also in different locations, we have local and regional stakeholders, starting from Sami planners, Sami educators, to business people who are dealing with tourism, or, for example, car and tire testing, and then who we also meet environmentalists and other representatives of civil societies. And we have done this within the last 30 years. And we started in May 1991, when you didn't have the Barents Euro-Arctic region, you didn't have even yet the environmental protection strategy of 8 Arctic states. That was signed a few weeks after the first Kalot Academy. And I mean, we didn't plan this in the very beginning, but simply we wanted to go to the region when we discuss about Arctic and circular issues. So that was the driving force. And then we realized that it is really good, particularly for young researchers, to go there and see what is the reality there, to feel it, to taste it, to smell it. And this is a method which is very much liked by those who have, in the first place, been brave enough to take 1 week to be on the road. It's very intensive program, but however, if I can have the last slide, you can see that there are so many different aspects. It's not so much being in a room where you discuss. It is also having many chances to discuss with your friends and other participants and feel what is the reality there. And I would say that this, I really hope that this method will be applied. Like we used to say, we don't have a copyright for this. We only encourage people to do it. But please don't copy, but apply. So what we aim to do is to develop the Kalot Academy as a school of dialogue, so that the aim and efforts are to promote and enhance a lively discussion with communicators' commitments and principles toward an open dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you for reminding us that the wider academic environment also includes independent academies. And in this respect also clearly demonstrates that crossing borders is not a problem. Well, that is of course under normal circumstances without a pandemic situation. Thank you. Now we will focus on exchange programs, both for students and teachers. And some of the experience we've had, but also pointing to the future. And to help us with that, Natalia Kononova will take us through the Barents Plus experience. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you for that. It's a pleasure for me to talk about the Barents Plus exchange program, which I have been working with since 2007. You can view my presentation, and I'll start. Well, we all understand that the value of study and placements abroad is very big for our university students. Like this, yeah. Increasingly, in the last decade, we have seen the universities offering a more diverse range of opportunities for students. As some opportunities come and go, like the Quota Scheme program or the High North Fellowship program, other opportunities remain stable over time. This is the case with the Regional University Exchange Program Barents Plus. It has given students and teachers in our region an opportunity to experience a new study environment in Norway and in Russia since 1995. Reports from participants give us enough evidence that the program has been a good tool to maintain the very idea of a multicultural and friendly Barents. Back in 1993, the participants of the historical conference on cooperation in the Barents Euro-Arctic region in Kirkenes stressed the importance of more extensive exchange of youth, students, and professors from high school to university levels. Once the cooperation in the Barents has been formalized, the Norwegian Barents Secretariat searched for an administrative body that would be willing to develop and lead a new exchange program for universities and university colleges in the Russian and Norwegian Barents. Finnmark University College in Alta, later merged with the University of Tromsø, came up with a program structure and an administrative resource that had been approved, and the first Barents Plus exchanges could take place in 1995. Barents Plus is the program for individual exchanges between 4 Norwegian and 10 Russian higher education institutions, all situated in the Norwegian-Russian part of the Barents region. The program works as a project. We apply for funds to the Norwegian Barents Secretariat twice a year, but prior to the project application, member institutions send their requests for scholarships to the Barents Plus office. Having received allocation from the Secretariat for the upcoming semester, the Barents Plus office distributes the scholarships further to the participating institutions. In the 1990s, the program was especially important for the Russian participants because of lack of funding in the Russian education system. It was impossible for them to pay all the high costs of traveling, accommodation, and other daily expenses in Norway. The picture seems to be quite different nowadays, and we often see self-financing Russian students studying in Norway and Russian universities solidly contributing financially to the exchanges and events connected to the Barents Plus activities. We are moving forward in a good way in this space. From the very beginning, we decided to minimize administrative expenses in the Barents Plus program. The administration costs never exceeded 10% of the total budget, so most of the project money go to scholarships. One of the continuous goals for us is to make the application and the reporting process as simple and non-bureaucratic as possible, so that we have a flexible exchange program that easily adopts changes. I must say that feedbacks we receive from the participants confirm that we have succeeded in this. Barents Plus funding is available for all academic fields, for students of all 3 levels, and this means from 1 week to 10 months. Staff members can apply for support of both preparatory visits and regular visits to partner universities. The first year's budget was of just 350,000 Norwegian kroners, and the number of exchanges was not very high. As you can see in the table on the screen, the program's best year so far was 2018-2019, with a budget of 1.7 million kroners and a rather high exchange activity on both sides of the border. From 2017 to 2019, the universities invested time and effort in organizing events of shorter period that attracted more participants. We had a number of 1 week-long schools in Russia and in Norway this year, in addition to regular individual exchanges of semester length. The next figure visualizes the development, the shift that has happened, especially when it comes to the student involvement. From just a few exchanges in the 90s up to more than 40 participants traveling both ways for 1 week and more. When we talk about exchange, the very concept itself implies that there is reciprocity in the mobility of staff and students. We can often hear about unbalanced exchanges between institutions and countries. In the case of the Norwegian-Russian exchange, there for a long time has been an imbalance in numbers, with more Russian students going to Norwegian institutions than Norwegian students going to Russia. If we look at the size of the two countries, the size of the population, and the number of institutions participating in the exchanges, this imbalance may though appear to be natural. Another factor for less Norwegian exchanges is the lack of English taught courses and a very different national and educational culture that might have been the barrier for semester exchanges for Norwegian students. Those Norwegian students who did go to Russia to study either had studied Russian language before or took a special course package in English for international students at the university in Arkhangelsk. We realized that we had to do something in order to make it more accessible for Norwegian students to experience education in Russia. We encouraged our member universities to cater for shorter events for the students who, of already mentioned reasons, could not fit a semester stay into their Norwegian degree. The key to widen participation of Norwegian students in the exchange with Russia was by funding mobility with shorter periods. Shorter organized visits just appeared to be less daunting for the students. They got most of the costs covered by the exchange program, and the frame for the exchange was an organized visit led by their own teachers. Such short experiences are accessible and immersive. They are just easier to commit to for the Norwegians. It became obvious that under certain conditions, Norwegian students do want to go and experience Russian universities, experience Russian cities, and of course, Russian culture. Norwegian students also, even while short visits, gain valuable insights that stay in their memory for a very long time. The majority of Russian students, on the contrary, enjoy full semester studies in Norway with the support from the Barents Plus program. This scholarship covers about 70% of the total costs connected to the exchange, and about 30% is self-funding. For most students from Russia, a Barents Plus exchange in Norway is their first experience of studying in a foreign country and at a foreign university. The reports from Russian students tell us that experiences of studying in Norway are for many students life-changing. As one student puts it in her report, the exchange period in Norway was simply a new chapter in life. I personally consider myself to be very lucky because I have been able to witness the development of student exchanges between Norway and Russia since 1994. Late summer in 1994, I, as a 17-year-old from Murmansk, found myself traveling to northern Norway, where I would spend one school year and live with a Norwegian family. And just like this, I started witnessing the very beginning of academic exchanges in the newly born Barents region. I must say that most of the challenges I faced as a student 27 years ago are fortunately unknown for exchange students today. Things have changed for the better. It has become easier to participate in exchange programs, and the journey, as a rule, has been facilitated and arranged for you. Both in Norway and Russia, internationalization has become an important part of university strategies and assessment schemes. Back in the 90s, the study period abroad was very often not recognized as a part of studies at home. So the students often had to do with a double study load. Today, more programs and courses are available, admission systems and recognition of courses are in place in most of cases. Today, our educational systems are more synchronized, which makes study load in the programs compatible and the recognition process in home universities easier. Norwegian and Russian youth are much closer to each other nowadays, thanks to multiple opportunities and, of course, social media. It even seems to me that they take the multicultural Barents region for granted, something that was for not longer than just 3 decades ago. It was just a vision and almost an unapproachable dream for a small group of brave politicians and local networkers. COVID-19 has forced institutions to find new forms of cooperation. And I believe that all the digital tools we had to start to use in a very quick and efficient way, they will enrich the cooperation to a large degree in the future. I am as a program coordinator for Barents Plus, I'm looking forward to seeing more blended mobility when digital and physical exchanges go together, giving even more students an opportunity for participation. I believe that we will see more and more of these rather new and exciting kind of institutional exchanges in addition to the traditional ones. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for those reflections, also on the personal level. And whilst listening to you, it struck me that, well, we have achieved a lot with very modest investments. So let's continue doing that, not with modest investments necessarily. Universities, they do undertake research, they educate people, but they can also act as think tanks. At least that is what we can foresee when it comes to the role of universities and the Barents region. My colleague at the Northern Arctic Federal University, Elena Kudyovska, at least have some ideas in that respect. Please, Elena.
Здравствуйте, уважаемые.
Dear Doug Olson, dear friends, I'm so happy to greet you on behalf of the Northern Arctic University from the university that was mentioned both by the Norwegian Minister of Foreign Affairs and many of the state secretaries, including the Deputy Minister of Russia. We would like to tell you about the role the Northern universities play in the Barents cooperation development. We will talk about our partners. Well, the university partnership in the Barents cooperation has a big role, and the universities have always been the first violin in this joint orchestra. The history of our cooperation starts in 1993 when the Pomor State University, that's the previous name of our university, we got a Norwegian Pomor University Center. That was the very first educational establishment that we shared with Norway. Then we developed a bachelor program in circular science together with University Nord. Then we've got several educational programs within the Transboundary University. And during these years, we have held a lot of conferences, meetings, educational and research projects. And of course, it's one of the most important tools was this our joint working group on education and research. My university has been a coordinator of the joint working group together with the University of Tromsø, then with the University of Umeå in Sweden between 2011 and 2017. And this working group has been so active. It proposed several wordings that were included in the Kirkenes Declaration, both when it comes to the tourist, forestry, and many other areas of research. We also proposed many different forms of activity and cooperation between the Russian, Norwegian, Finnish, and Swedish universities. Today, we combine the more traditional forms of cooperations with universities and research networks, authorities. Together with that, we have developed a lot of other cooperation areas where we can exchange our ideas and competences. That is scientific support for projects, smart solutions, R&D projects, science diplomacy, and cutting-edge educational technologies in these trying circumstances due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have different institutes and tools. They're both bilateral working groups. The the EU-Russia CBC programs, academic networks, the University of the Arctic, and many other tools. When we look at the modern trends, we can see that the Nordic universities, the northern universities, base their cooperation on projects. And this project activity is very important and very effective in developing of our joint Barents region. We have fundraising mechanisms present in the region, and they help a lot when it comes to the partnership projects. They also help our network cooperation between the universities, the research centers, business, grant organizations, and authorities. Actually, the Barents region is now a project lab, and we have a lot of positive experience that you have heard so much about earlier today. And we have so much to present to each other when we initiate new projects. We have a European tool that we can use here in the Arctic to enhance environmental protection and climate change adaptation. We have got seen 380 participating organizations who participated in the 4 calls for proposals. And 48 projects have been funded by the Coal Arctic program from 12 different regions. 3 areas have been considered the most important. That's development of business, development of sustainable transport and communication systems, and environment and climate change. More than half of the project applications were within the education and research institutes. The 12 of the projects were initiated by my Northern Arctic Federal University and 10% by the Arctic University of Norway. The outcome of these projects highlight the role of the university as a source of competence, as solid research hubs. We in NARFU have been implementing lots of different projects. Some of them are listed on this slide, like Deconcrete, some projects within the IT. We have monitored the ice conditions in the Arctic seas and many, many others. Thanks to our projects, we have been able to widen our partnership that now consists of 26 universities and research centers. As a case of our successful cooperation, I would like to dwell on the Deconcrete project, when both Norwegian, Russian, and Finnish researchers develop new technological solutions for recycled environmentally sound use of worn-out concrete in order to organize demolition process, separation and concrete waste processing, and to define concrete recycling areas and waste management strategy. Another successful project was ice operations in the Arctic seas. where we modeled different maritime conditions. We wanted to calculate ice loads in the Arctic loads. Researchers from Norway, Finland, Sweden, and Russia have been working and concentrating over the description of ice conditions for business and field development. And we have been publishing reports and made presentations during different international conferences. We also improved models to enhance safety when developing fields offshore. And this where we conducted a School of Arctic Engineering where 80 students for 7 countries participated. We're also currently developing an educational course which will be called the Ice Operations in the Arctic Seas. I think this is a very effective mechanism of transboundary cooperation in the Barents region. Well, we conduct different cooperation projects, but we also see that we have a new possibility to enhance our cooperation due to Russian chairmanship in the Arctic Council. You know, during these and next year, Russia is going to be the chair of the Arctic Council, and our university has taken a responsibility for organizing different congresses and seminars for the youth this year, next year, and in 2023. So I would like to invite all our colleagues, partners, and friends to the conference on attracting human resources to the Arctic. It will be conducted in the middle of November this year. It will be a hybrid conference. And in 2022, we have scheduled a lot of conferences, like the International Forum of Young Scientists, Russia in the Arctic Dialogue, local and global context, that will be held in May last year. In June next year, we will have a student summit on ecology preservation in the Arctic region. And during the summer navigation, we will organize our brand project, the Arctic Floating University. And now we're conducting a competition to establish a crew. So we encourage all students and young researchers and PhD students to participate in this competition. Dear friends, thank you for your attention, and you're welcome to Archangel, to the hometown of Mikhail Lomonosov, who has been mentioned many times during this conference. Next year, we're going to mark 110th anniversary from his birthday. And our Deputy Minister, Bocharova, said this year is the year of academic research. And it's a wonderful opportunity to evaluate what we already have achieved within the Barents cooperation when it comes to the academic mobility and joint projects and joint expeditions. And then it's also a possibility to think about new projects, new ideas and also by preserving our traditions. Thank you. Welcome to Russia.
Thank you, Rector Kudrashova. I'm sure that we are more than convinced that universities can play a big role in development of the collaboration between our countries in our region. We also heard recently that we have collaboration across over building materials like concrete, which might challenge us when it comes to sustainability and the CO2 emissions. We'll hear a bit about more in detail about some of the urban living aspects and also the technologies and material realities when we move on to the next talk, which is Professor Björn Sørensen and Professor Alexander Kuzimenko. Please.
Thank you very much. My name is Björn Sørensen, and I will do this presentation together with Alexander, my colleague from Petrozavodsk. The title is Technology, Material Realities and Sustainable Urban Living in the Barents region. This presentation is part of the implementation of the Green Arctic Building Project, which is funded by Colarctic CBC. So the next slide. Yes, the partners in this project is UIT, where I'm from, and we have Murmansk State Technical University, we have Umeå University, and also University of Oulu, and then also Petrozavodsk State University. So it's a quite big project covering a lot of land areas here. Next. This slide is just to show you some facts about the projects and where you can find more information. So you can, afterwards, I guess we will have this presentation available and you can press on the links and get some more information. Next, please. About the project idea was that somehow what we do on a local level, like different measures and in different areas, will ultimately have some contribution to kind of improving the living in the Arctic. And that is the ultimate goal of this project, is to make some contributions to make things better. And we are starting on the local level. We are looking at the building technologies in particular in this project, but also the urban development. Next slide. And the problems that we have seen and still see is that, well, there is a large share of buildings in the areas of the north that does not or do not satisfy the conditions that we would like to have inside building, outside building. So existing buildings really don't meet requirements for sustainability and efficiency. And that is something that we are trying to contribute to. And this also affects people's motivation and to live in the north. Maybe that is part of the reason that we have the depopulation of the northern regions, because people don't have the comfortable conditions outside and inside. Also, one of the problems that we have noticed is that the cooperation in this area, cross-border cooperation in this area, is often hindered by different regulations, different laws and standards and so on. And that's also something that we are working with in this project, trying to get an overview of what can we do in order to make this easier in the future. So the best practice, this project is going to cover a lot of technologies, especially green technologies, going to demonstrate some of the technologies, which we will see just now when Alexander takes over. And we'll also make some learning modules and learning platform and develop some recommendations. So next. Yeah, it didn't update on my, there we are. The project is kind of designed based on 5 work packages. So if you press the button a few times, they will appear on the screen. So it's a presentation technicality, this. But anyway, it's 5 different work packages, where one of them is the demonstration work package. And this is work package number 3, pilot projects. And Alexander is now going to show you a little bit of what we have done in Petrozavodsk and in Murmansk. Next. Yes, so I give the word then to Alexander. Thank you.
Спасибо, Björn. Здравствуйте.
Thank you, Björn. Good morning or good afternoon. I would like to share about our pilot projects. In the 3rd package in 2020, in the territories of the 2 northern regions in Murmansk region, 2 identical experimental buildings were constructed. The house is a one floor low building. One part is built is a one floor building, and the second part is by the classical technology. And this building is symmetrical, and the inside territory and space is totally identical. The most important material used here is wooden rest that are the come from the wooden forestry production. The building and the experimental building in Murmansk and Petrozavodsk have the same orientation on the ground and the same color, and the northern block is oriented to the north, without windows. In each part of the building, the northern walls is divided into 3 zones where an additional thermal insulation materials are applied. An additional insulating material is applied for a double log wall, and one of the sections is it's without insulation and just because by the air. And for the next, in the frame part, there are 3 variants of heat insulating materials, and the inside section is filled with insulation material laid by dry wet spraying methods, and the 3rd section is a flax and breeze thermal insulation boards based on dried seaweed. All these materials are collected or characterized as green and climate friendly. The thickness was collected based on Murmansk weather conditions, and the highest efficiency was achieved, A+ for the coldest climate. Temperature and humidity sensors were installed during the construction of the building, and the building was 240 sensors to record temperature and humidity inside and outside the building, and also a separate sensor is provided for monitoring the wind parameters. 25 measurement points were selected, so in the corners, close to windows and openings, and in different heights of walls where different insulation type was applied. To control humidity and temperature, sensors were installed in each layer of the building structures. And to conclude the presentation, I would like to present you a small video about our construction site in Petrozavodsk.
Experimental building in Petrozavodsk is situated on the territory of Botanic Garden of Petrozavodsk State University. Two identical experimental buildings were built under the project, one in Murmansk and second in Petrozavodsk. Each building has two parts. One part made according to the frame technology, the second part according to the double lock technology. Here you see temperature and humidity sensors on the facade of the building. These sensors monitor environmental parameters. Part of the building made using double lock technology. Electric heating convectors maintain a constant temperature inside the building. Part of the building made using frame technology. Here you see one of the ventilation units with a recuperation system. An energy consumption control system is installed here. Thank you for your attention. You are welcome to Petrozavodsk.
Ну что ж, прекрасно, правда? Посмотрите, как традиционные строительные материалы современной технологии предоставляют нам устойчивое жилье современное. У нас уже говорилось о целом ряде проектов по сотрудничеству, и мы многому научились в ходе их выполнения. В чем заключаются факторы успеха? Об этом расскажет следующая докладчица Елена Дыбцина. Пожалуйста.
Thank you for being present today at this very good event of cooperation between universities in the Barents region. And also it was a pleasure to listen the speakers before because I can see that there are ideas as well as projects and cooperations that we are all working together. So I will just tell something about our experiences with the cooperation between universities in the field of education and research, what we have learned, as well what are the key success factors that we have identified in our cooperation. Firstly, to tell you about, I'm representing Nord University Business School and the High North Center for Business and Governance. And also at the Nord University, we have several projects that we cooperate with Barents region partners. However, of course, the main partner that we have been cooperating longest is also our Russian partner universities. And recently, we have been celebrating the 30th years anniversary of our cooperation with our Russian partners. So, and we are looking forward for the next years of our cooperation. Some of the projects that we are doing right now and have been doing for some time with our partners is for example, Business Index North is the project that we are kind of measuring the temperature of economic activities and businesses, what is happening in the Barents region. One of the projects that has been developed as the continuation of the Business Index North, we realized that areas or regions of the Barents Arctic is actually more or less having the same challenges. And that's why we wanted to know now more about what is it about with the demography within the Barents Euro-Arctic region. So we are now doing the research on Arctic demography index in Russia, Finland, Sweden, and Norway. The other project that has been attracting our attention is those projects that are connected also sustainable development and management by participatory governance practices in the High North, where with the partners from our neighboring countries, we are looking at actually how do we developing those practices at the local or regional level to enhance sustainable development and management of the regions. The other issue that is also very important, of course, in the High North is the project concerned with the emergency management and crisis preparedness, where we have been cooperating with a lot of partners all over the Arctic Council, but the main and most long-lasting partners are our partners from the Barents region, where we are looking also for the organizational structures, how the preparedness and crisis and emergency management is organized in order to facilitate the cooperation between the emergency units, especially when something happens in the fragile environment of the Arctic, and actually also very harsh environment of the Arctic. The other project that we also has been recently starting is the project with the Arctic maritime logistics. And actually it is also connected with the development of what it means for the Barents Euro-Arctic region with the development of the Northern Sea route, and as well as organizing the logistics within the maritime. We also have a lot of projects that actually supports the idea of the education and research cooperation. And one of the projects that have been supported by the Barents Secretariat, for example, is the business practice in Russia. When we take the Norwegian students for 1 week to Arkhangelsk, where they meet the companies and how they have been working together there. And then as well, we have our High North Dialogue Week, which we organize every year in Bodø, with the different kind of events, with the meeting of the young people, with the decision makers for the High North and Arctic issues. And then the last but not least, we also have heard of other projects, and also when we talk about that the Barents region needs business activities and also entrepreneurial mindsets. So that's why now we are organizing the project, which is meant for the training the entrepreneurs in the cross-border area, and with taking the consideration the COVID situation and how actually it can be done when there is no possibilities for so many projects to be organizing physically. So what we have learned in our cooperation is that it's actually always about what are the subjects that we are discussing. And in our case, our education and research cooperation is largely business-oriented and social-oriented. And it always aims at the developing knowledge, skills, and competencies that are useful for both Norwegian and our Barents partners. And of course, especially in the High North and the Arctic. We see that Barents region countries have so many shared interests, and all of the countries want sustainable development of the High North. And we are affected by many of the same international trends that are happening, for example, in the energy, trade, climate policy, and geopolitics. So here we have a very good platform to start building our cooperation. And the project, for example, that has been presented by me just earlier and our colleagues beforehand, they showed that those shared interests are the most important starting point for our cooperation. The next one is that we still need to be good at developing knowledge together. And since we are not so much different from one another, for example, when it comes to our business foundations or business cooperation, and particularly in the Arctic region. So we need to develop this knowledge together in order to make this possible, to have those shared interests that are taken care at both sides or several sides of the projects. And we see also as well that there are many interests that they are coincide in our education and research cooperation with Barents partners. So that we need to take care about it, that those educational programs are having reflection when the students are taking the courses, as well as our research projects are dealing with the Barents cooperation or Barents knowledge are implemented in our programs and research projects. So what was working for us? What was our success factors for our cross-border university cooperation in the Barents region? And here I don't think that I will say something new, because most of my colleagues has been mentioning these factors already. But I just would like to kind of specify and put a little bit more, put more light on those that has been working for us. Boundary spanners, or those dedicated individuals. Those people, it is those people that we see that they kind of have the sense for the opportunities before the others. And then they also kind of use maybe their previous experience of education or research cooperation with Barents countries or with Barents partners as the part of the kind of initiating this educational or research projects. Right frameworks, and this is about for example, we have here very strong Barents people-to-people cooperation, as well as also that national policies or Arctic national policies are actually encouraging the cooperation. So it means that those right frameworks are necessary, and that's why they, in order that they kind of provide this support for the project, both in terms of political and economical climate. Activities and networks. What we are doing here today, I assume also part of those kind of success factor when we are exchanging what has been done so far and what are our future perspectives. But when we have those frameworks in place, the ones that I mentioned before, it's important to fill them with activities and facilitate. Like in our case, is like student groups, networks of teachers and administrators, and also networks that are emerging around the projects while during the project's going on when it is over. The thing is that if you manage to engage other people and offer them interesting activities, it gives essence to the cooperation. So in a way, those networks and activities, joint activities, they start to reinforce cooperation from the bottom up. The other factor that we consider also very important is that reciprocity, mutual interest, and collegiality. The thing is that there is also been mentioned before that should be done. The cooperation has impact and has the value on all of the partners involved. And there is also very important that we, as the researchers, educators, and project managers, has this genuine interest in each other countries. And we do trust each other in what we are doing. And in a way, there is an engagement that has been created both at the faculty and the administrative level that we see that helps to promote the cooperation. The next one is the targeted and task-oriented partnership programs or projects aimed at transnational challenges in the High North. We also see that as much as possible of those programs are involved, that we have those challenges that are in a way shared to all of our regions. They make it very much possible to create successful cooperation in the Barents region. And the last but not least is the key people with international background. Internationalization has been mentioned already, and it is a very important issue within the universities. And here, the people who has this international experience, and as soon as the cooperation is established, it is important to have the people with such international background when they can, where they have both formal and sometimes informal competencies in each other education and research systems. Thank you very much for your.
Спасибо за то, что вы поделились со своим опытом с нами и за ваше послание о том, как нам развивать наше сотрудничество. Спасибо большое. Сейчас последний докладчик, но не самый важный докладчик нашей сессии, это Петр Schöll.
Work that he has been involved in, and a number of universities, obviously, in our region, and that is the Arctic 5 and the U-Arctic. Please, Peter.
And good afternoon. I notice we are a bit behind schedule, so I will try to be brief. Yes, trying to find my presentation here. That is. All right. Barents cooperation is part of the Arctic cooperation, which sometimes might be confusing, but it's my certain belief that we should see that as a benefit and a strength of what we do, and Arctic research should see the same thing. I'm also very happy to hear that the high-level participants and all participants have acknowledged the value of research and education as an important part of the foundation of the Barents cooperation. And we actually need strong cooperation and networks at different levels. Everything from the local level up to the global, and one builds up for the other. I will today, with a few words, present two such corporations to you with a great value to the Barents Corporation and our members. First of all, we should just take a look on the map presented by the European Union when presenting their European Research Area, the ERA. And you don't need a rocket scientist to see that there is an important part of this European map that is not included in the network, and that is our northern part. The situation is not as bad as it looks. We are an integrated and important part of the European Union research programs and cooperation, but it's also significant and significative that the map looks the way it is, because sometimes we feel that we are a bit forgotten, even neglected up here, even when it comes to research connecting to our own area. Let's see. First is the Arctic 5. That is a cooperation with 5 northern Scandinavian universities in Umeå, Luleå, Oulu, Rovaniemi, and Tromsø. That started up a few years ago with an ambitious agenda to build a strong network and joint capacities of our 5 universities. There we are. The Arctic 5 Universities is a comprehensive alliance with a critical mass of more than 90,000 students and 10,000 researchers and staff, with research infrastructures built for increasing our knowledge, education, and innovations for the development of a more sustainable region. We have actually also been very successful in the European Union Horizon 2020 framework, with more than 300 signed grants agreements and 150 million euros raised from this funding source. That is not to say very important for what we do. But also, in addition, we aim to create cross-institutional and cross-disciplinary research and education efforts to meet the challenges of the Barents region and our part of the Arctic. And our part of the Arctic is actually different from other parts of the Arctic. It's not like Greenland. It's not like Alaska or Northern Canada. So there are good reasons for us, not least with our strong and long historical history together, to develop and improve this system and to keep a close dialogue with outreach actions from everywhere, of the local to the regional and national levels. And that is a strength that our network actually make proof of. And the Arctic 5 will do this by improving our research collaboration. We have recently introduced a system of research chairs and fellows, each responsible for a thematic project with relevance to the people in the North. We aim to make joint action, share infrastructures, and to build these multidisciplinary and cross-border projects. Let's see. Yes. Next step is, well, I should say about the Arctic 5 too, that mobility is an important part of our activities. We aim to build a blended campus where we share courses, where we share supervision, and where we build together. We are doing this with a rector's council, a secretariat, an executive team, and even a students team, which is a very important part of the collaboration. To the other organization, UArctic, you might certainly have heard of it. We just celebrated our 20 years anniversary in Rovaniemi, Finland, and I am a proud chair of UArctic board. This network of universities, colleges, and research institutions is a global effort, a global circumpolar effort, since most members are from the North, but we also see members from different parts of the world. And the aim is to build and strengthen collective resources and infrastructures to increase member capacity, to work with education, research, and outreach, to promote viable communities, sustainable economies, and to forge global partnerships. We should also remember that the University of the Arctic was created 20 years ago through the efforts of the Arctic Council, and is of course also very concerned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The vision is to build strong, engaged, informed, and dynamic North, to creating better lives and environments for all Northerners. The mission is to develop knowledge, to address local and global challenges of relevance to the Arctic societies and people, and to build a strong and powerful network. With more than 220 members, UArctic is a very unique organization and a resource for all our universities in the different regions of the Barents region. The main structure of UArctic is built on 53 thematic networks, UArctic institutes, and the North to North Student Mobility Program that makes it possible for students from our countries to spend time, to study courses, to meet together wherever in the Barents or the Arctic region they live. And this student mobility has proved to be very successful, and we work in New Arctic with an effort to build the future leadership of the North. And we also see this as a feed into the Barents cooperation and vice versa. So with that said, fingers crossed for a strong and positive development of Barents research and education development. Thank you.
Well, now we've heard a few examples, vivid examples, representative examples, obviously, of the collaboration. And we've learned that, of course, framework, regulation, policies, whatever, there's all sorts of things that are important, but at the end of the day, it comes down to people, to dedicated, motivated, engaged people. So with that, I'll conclude this session, and dear friends, I will now pass on the moderator chair to Pro Vice Chancellor of Umeå University, Katrine Ricklund. Please, Katrine, over to you.
Thank you so much. We will now slightly change focus. Welcome to this session, where we will continue with the value of research cooperation. And during this session, we will be given 4 success stories. The 4 excellent speakers will share their knowledge and expertise, and together with the speakers, we will travel over the region and between different perspectives of the value of research cooperation. The first success story will update us on better healthcare in the Barents region, presented by Dr. Vladimir Iljin at Narayan Mar Region Hospital. He's responsible for their telemedicine project and will talk about telemedicine, transferable diseases, and children at risk. The second story is about environment and sustainable development, presented by Mr. Sami Pirkala, the Secretary General at the National Commission on Sustainable Development of Finland. He is also Chief Specialist at the Prime Minister's Office. The third story, about a common Barents identity, cooperation on history of the Barents region, will be presented by Professor Kari Aga Myklebost from the Arctic University of Norway. She is a professor at the Department of Archaeology, History, Religious Studies, and Theology, and she has a research interest in the history of the northern regions through the 19th and 20th centuries. The fourth and last story, bring in the business perspective and responsible economic development. Professor Per Weihed, a professor in geology and Pro Vice Chancellor at Luleå University of Technology, will give the last talk in this very interesting session. I first invite the speaker, Dr. Vladimir Iljin, to give your talk. The screen is yours.
Hello. Now I will start my presentation. Hello, my name is Vladimir Iljin. I'm an expert in telemedicine at the Nenets District Hospital. First, I would like to describe our region to you. The Nenets Autonomous Okrug is located in the far northeast of the European part of Russia. The territory occupies some 177,000 square kilometers. The distance from north to south is more than 300 kilometers, and from west to east almost 1,000 kilometers. Our population is 44,000 people, of which 7,500 are indigenous Nenets people. We have remote settlements, harsh climatic conditions, low population density, just a quarter of a person per 1 square kilometers. We have lack of ground communication, and the only permanent transport is Mi-8 helicopters and our reindeers. In these conditions, telemedicine is a very effective tool. We applied telemedicine since 2000, and it was we established a telemedical network in Archangel region as part of our cooperation with Norway. In 2011, we established telemedical communication within the Nenets district. And now we also have a possibility to have communication with the federal medical centers in the rest of Russia. We have 3 types of telemedical consultations. It's with the federal centers, with hospitals in Archangel, and in our Nenets region. You can see how we have increased the number of our telemedical consultations. One of our development stages is that happened in 2013 when we started to participate in the bilateral Russian-Norwegian cooperation within the telemedicine. Mononko Svetlana Bouet is the coordinator, and Sergei Kongurtsev is the Russian coordinator of the projects. So what do we cover with the international telemedical project? It's the cardiovascular diseases, telecardiology. This is one of the main and large sections due to its importance. Diabetes and remote control of diabetes, emergency care, including pre-hospital thrombolysis, rehabilitation, support of the medical volunteer movement through training of volunteers and involvement of activists, including students and school children. Then we also cover obesity among children. In 2020, we gathered 9 children. Unfortunately, they are quite obese, and they are under control of a pediatric doctor. And we already see that the health condition is improving for 4 children, but we still have to work with the other 5 children. In addition, we held a large educational campaign among the population, and now you will see some examples of our practical work. In 2018, interaction between the personnel of the weather stations located in the Nenets and medical entities of the region was tested. One of the weather stations was equipped with several kits of equipment for Oddvar Hagen from the Norwegian University, a representative of the Barents Secretariat, and a medical doctor and a representative for the weather service went to the weather station. They brought with them the equipment, and then we trained the station staff and saw how they can contact with the nearest medical entity. In 2019, we experienced 2 acute situations when we had to send out an air ambulance brigade, or at least we had to decide whether to send the brigade or not. Well, one of the employees got pain in his chest, and we took ECG with this supplied equipment and monitor his health condition for a couple of days, and then we concluded that this condition was not acute or life-threatening. So it did not require to send an ambulance, because this flight would last about 5 hours, and the cost of the flight would be some $15,000. Last year, as a part of the Russian-Norwegian project, a pilot room for emergency care was equipped in a remote department of the Nenets district hospital in a rural area. The office is equipped now with both medical equipment and a video conferencing system. It will allow to transmit data from the monitors in real time. We used experience from northern Norway when equipping the room. And here you can see a medical room in Svalbard and in the Nenets. Last year, as a part of our Russian-Norwegian project we equipped an exercise room for remote rehabilitation. We purchased 3 iPads and installed a TV panel for the instructors so they can see several patients under training sessions in groups. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, plays, of course, a certain role in this, and in 2020, 14 patients trained remotely. 179 training sessions were held. 9 of the patients are children and 5 were adults. The duration of one session lasted between 30 and 45 minutes. Since the time for my presentation is limited, I cannot tell you about all our activities. I just invite you to participate in an international practical conference. That's a biannual conference. And in November next year, we will conduct the 5th conference of this kind. Here you can see the site address. Please go there for further details. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with a great talk. Usage of telemedicine really shorten long distances and give increased opportunities to give a more equal healthcare. It has changed the healthcare significantly, especially in sparsely populated areas. So thank you again. Look forward to the Congress. We then continue with the next speaker, Mr. Sami Pirkala. The screen is yours, please.
Thank you, Chair. Dear participants. First of all, thank you for this opportunity to contribute in this high-level meeting. I am the Secretary General of the Finnish National Commission on Sustainable Development. The Commission is an influential national forum that brings together key stakeholders of the Finnish society. It was established in 1993 and has been operating without interruptions since then. The Commission is chaired by the Prime Minister. I also act as a chief specialist at the Prime Minister's office. There, my task is to support the government in the design and implementation of government's sustainability policies. Finland, like all Nordic countries, succeeds well in international sustainability comparisons. I believe it is due to a shared Nordic understanding of the welfare society. Indeed, people's well-being is at the heart of sustainable development. Sustainable development is about ensuring the well-being of present and future generations. A sustainable future is built for future generations, and the builders are we, the present generation. Everybody is needed for that, and everybody must be kept on board. This also applies to the Barents region. People of the Barents region are the most important asset for its sustainable future. However, the fact is that the well-being of both our generation and future generations is based on nature and the capital that nature offers us. Therefore, taking care of the environment is a precondition for a sustainable future. I know that this is well taken into account in the work of the Barents Euro-Arctic Council. One of the main achievements of Norway's chairmanship will be the new climate program, which will be adopted later this month, as I have understood. Finland, during its coming presidency, will continue by focusing on the protection of biodiversity, specifically on freshwater ecosystems and the fight against invasive species. The main focus of this session is in the value of research cooperation. Therefore, as a policy planner, for me, it is natural to focus on the interaction between science and policy. I will give you some practical examples on how the science policy interface functions in Finland, specifically in the field of sustainable development. Finland's sustainability policy is based on two pillars. The government is the 2030 agenda. Therefore, the government has drawn up a national implementation plan, which was submitted to the parliament first in 2017 and then updated by the current government in 2020. On the other hand, although the governments are responsible for reaching the SDGs, sustainable development requires the involvement of and participation of the society as a whole. In Finland, this social inclusion has been implemented through the Commission on Sustainable Development. As said before, the Commission is a multi-stakeholder forum led by the Prime Minister. So these are the two pillars of Finland's national sustainability work. Government's work, which is organized around the national implementation plan, and Commission's work, which aims at the involvement of the whole of society. There are several mechanisms for science policy interaction on sustainability issues in Finland. I would like to briefly mention three examples that are topical and significant. The first is the National Expert Panel on Sustainable Development. The panel was established in 2013 and consists of professors from different fields. The activities of the panel have developed over the years, and today the panel plays an important role in the preparation of the contents of the national sustainability policy. For example, in April, the members of the panel were invited to the government session on multi-annual budgetary framework. Their role was to give an overview of future challenges of the Finnish society. This practice will be continued and developed further next year with the aim of creating a structure in which the advice from sustainability science would be systematically taken into account as part of the preparation of national spending limits. Another example is the national evaluation of sustainability policy. In 2019, Finland carried out an independent evaluation of national sustainability policy. The purpose of this evaluation was to produce research-based information on sustainability challenges and on the effectiveness of national sustainability policies. The results and recommendations of the evaluation were made public before the parliamentary elections and supported the new government in the preparation of the government program in 2019. We are currently preparing a new evaluation, which will be completed by the end of the year 2022, so that the results are available at the time of the next parliamentary elections in April 23. A third example is the introduction of systems thinking into national sustainability work. The objectives of the 2030 Agenda define the target state for sustainable development in 2030. However, they do not inform us on how this target state could be achieved. Since the adoption of the 2030 Agenda, the scientific community has emphasized the importance of systems thinking in the formulation of national sustainability policies. This was the key message of the Global Sustainable Development Report, GSDR, published in 2019 by an international group of eminent scientists. In Finland, on the basis of the GSDR, the expert panel prepared a report on the most important national systemic sustainability issues. At the moment, the Finnish Commission on Sustainable Development is working on a national roadmap for the 2030 agenda, which approaches the challenge of the SDGs through 6 systematic transformations, like, for example, sustainable food system, and the measures to be taken in each of them. This work will be completed by the end of this year. In addition to knowledge-based approach, policy coherence over time is an important element of a successful and effective sustainability policy. Parliaments play an important role in ensuring continuity and consistency. In Finland, Parliament's Committee on the Future acts as a committee responsible for sustainable development and provides parliamentary guidance for the government's work on sustainable development. Long-term sustainability is also an important element in regional sustainability work. In regional context, the production and maintenance of structures that support coherent policies over time is even more challenging. In view of the Barents region and the work of the Barents Euro-Arctic Council, it is essential to seek long-term synergies between the presidencies and between different regional forums. In this context, I see Russia's current emphasis on environmental issues in the Arctic Council as an important opportunity, while Finland, at the same time, will emphasize environmental issues in the Barents Euro-Arctic Council. This is an opportunity for synergy between forums. There is also an opportunity for a coherent long-term emphasis on environmental work, as Russia will follow Finland as the chair of the Barents Euro-Arctic Council. Thank you.
Thank you so much for a great talk. Sustainable development, a very important topic and a challenge that really affects us all, both now and in the future. Your work is important, and it's great that we can share and learn from each other. So thank you once again. Now it's time to continue with the talk given by Professor Kari Aga-Mikkelborst. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Katrine, and thank you to the organizers for inviting me to participate in this meeting and talk about our fruitful and long-lasting cooperation in history with Russian and Barents regions colleagues. I will start by trying to share my screen with you. Just a second. So, our cooperation in history has lasted for...
Excuse me, could you switch display? We are looking at the presenter's view.
Oh, okay.
If you start the presentation all over again.
Yes, just a second.
You can switch when you have started the presentation. Swap screens.
Just a second and I will do it all over again. Is it okay now?
No, now you can start the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
And then we'll see.
So can you see me now? And can you see the presentation?
Well, the presentation doesn't start. Click once again and see if we can start it. Otherwise, we can stay with this one.
I'm not sure why it's not working.
No. But I think we can, you have only 9 slides, so we can look at them in this way. It works.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
I'll just start my presentation then. Our cooperation in history has lasted for 3 decades now. And we have had the pleasure of publishing in history on joint topics of mutual interest, together with our good colleagues in Arkhangelsk, who are present here today. I see in Murmansk, who are also present in Petrozavodsk, in Moscow and St. Petersburg, and also, of course, in Luleå, Umeå, and Oulu and Rovaniemi. Our main mutual focus has been on various aspects of the history of our northern regions, the Barents region. And from my institution, the University of Tromsø in particular, we have had an interest in the historical relations between Norway and Russia. And this cooperation, it emanates from some very simple facts. We are all neighbors with a common border or common borders in the north. And this means that historically there has been a multitude of contacts and relations across the borders in trade and economy, in hunting, exploration of the resources of the polar waters, in harvesting the resources of the north. There have also been mutual ideas of each other across the borders, both positive or even idealizing ideas, and also threat perceptions historically. So our historical experiences as neighbor states facing the Barents Sea are closely intertwined. And due to this, we as historians today find ourselves having common research interests in exploring the history of our northern region and the history of our relations as peoples and states. To illustrate our long-lasting cooperation, I wanted to show you a slide. I'll just have to tell you about it now. In 1993, the University of Tromsø held its annual spring conference at the Pomor University in Arkhangelsk, today's Northern Arctic Federal University. And this conference inaugurated a new era for our two universities, marking the start of a phase characterized by the building of strong academic bonds. And soon after, the state universities in Murmansk and Petrozavodsk also joined into the cooperation together with universities in Moscow and St. Petersburg, among them the Academy of Sciences in Moscow and its Institute for World History. The universities in northern Sweden and Finland have also taken great interest in joint exploration of the history of the Barents region. But the bond between the universities of Tromsø and Arkhangelsk is particularly strong. And over the last 3 decades, hundreds of students have been on exchange between our two universities, living for a period in the neighboring country. Actually, we can date our Tromsø cooperation with Arkhangelsk back to the Soviet period, to 1986, when the restored Norwegian schooner, the sailing boat Pauline, sailed to Arkhangelsk. Pauline is said to be one of the last Norwegian ships to visit Arkhangelsk before the Russian Revolution in 1917. And after the revolution, the traditional Pomor trade along our coasts ceased, but Pauline was preserved and later restored. And in 1986, she sailed again along the historical route from northern Norway to Arkhangelsk, with a crew consisting of historians, academics, and cultural workers from northern Norway. I also wanted to show you a photo of Pauline being very heartily welcomed in Arkhangelsk by, among others, the Northern Fleet. And before she left home, the first ideas for joint research in history were born. Today, after 30 years of joint historical exploration, we have produced some 30 books co-written by Russian and Norwegian, Swedish, Finnish historians. And we take great pride in publishing in all languages, also in Russian, as we find it highly important to reach out to readers in all 4 Barents region countries. Thematically, our joint works cover such topics as the history of trade, of course, in the Barents region in former times, the history of diplomacy between our countries, the migration from, in particular, Norway and Finland to the Murman-Kola Peninsula coast in the mid-19th century, ideas of northernness, in particular in Norway and Russia, how we perceive ourselves as northern peoples. Of course, the history of our borders, the history of the Second World War in our northern region, which is a very important topic, the relations and joint historical experiences on the Arctic archipelagos and on Spitsbergen in particular. And also we have written a joint work on the long history of today's Barents region area, going back to medieval times. And these are just to mention a few of the topics that we have explored together. The main outcome of our cooperation is a 2-volume work on Norwegian-Russian relations from 1814 and up until the present. And this work is the result of the biggest Norwegian-Russian cooperation project in history ever, including approximately 30 colleagues from Norway and Russia. The work covers all aspects of Norwegian-Russian historical relations in politics, in trade, in diplomacy, in science and culture. And it discusses how the small state of Norway and the Russian great power have managed over 2 centuries to maintain stable bilateral relations, also in periods of rising international tensions. The 2 volumes were published first in Norwegian, and volume 1 on the 19th century was then published in a Russian edition. And currently we are preparing a Russian edition, also volume 2, covering the 20th century and up until the present day. And I'm very proud to say that the Russian edition of volume 1, called Splizhenia in Russian, was awarded a prize by the Russian Publishers Association in 2017 as the best book of the year, facilitating dialogue between cultures. So I think this is a crucial point in our work, that we use history as a platform for dialogue. And with this, I will end my short presentation by emphasizing that I do hope we will continue our joint efforts with Russian colleagues, Swedish, Finnish colleagues also in the future. And that the new situation concerning international cooperation in research and higher education for Russian universities, that these are implemented in a way that facilitate our cooperation also in future times. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for a great talk. Even though the history already has been, it really laid a base for the present and the future. Very interesting. We have a long story as collaborating neighbors. I'm pretty sure it will last for a long time in the future as well. So thank you again. Now we will change perspective, maybe just a little, and I will hand over to the last speaker of this session, Professor Per Weihed. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Catherine. See if I'm successful with this. There we go. Can you see the screen now? Good. Perfect. So it's always a challenge to be the last speaker. So I realize we are running out of time. I'll try to be very brief here. I was asked to give a business perspective, but bearing in mind, of course, that I am from the academies. So it will be my view on the business opportunities with respect to responsible economic development that I will talk about here today. So what do we actually then mean with the responsible economic development? Yes, of course, many of you have already talked about this. It's part of sustainable development, and it should be in a Barents perspective. So it's part of the 3 legs of sustainability. And I personally believe that sometimes we tend to forget the other aspects of sustainability when we talk about the sustainable development. So the social and economic pillars are also very important to remember. And to me, this is very much about building the good life, not for a few people, but for all people living in the regions. So you have to remember this when you look at responsible business development in the region. And when we talk about business sectors, you all know that there are many different sectors, both private and public sectors, and they can contribute. All too often I meet as a university person, either the public sector or the private sector. Rather seldom we sit at the same table to look at opportunities together. So I think one key message here is that we need to collaborate across sectors much more in the future to build on the possibilities that we have. And going into the opportunities, I think there are all kinds of possibilities and opportunities in this part of the world to be a real showcase for fossil-free, sustainable society. I think already now the world is watching us, and I think that a lot of exciting things are happening in different parts of the Barents region, all for building this next generation of a society that build on fossil-free energy and so forth. However, when I look at the Barents, I think that the economy and society needs to grow to be able to cover all the investments to go in this direction. It's not enough what we are doing now. We need to grow. And just to give you a perspective on this dimension, we have a discussion here in Sweden about investments in this part of the Barents, where we just understand that there is a skill shortage of over 100,000 people in the northern part of Sweden. And to give you an idea how much is that, yeah, that's around 20% of the population in this area that we need to find somewhere, which are not here now. So if we should collaborate on anything in the future, I think this is definitely one area where we should try to find common solutions. And then if you go into the fossil-free sustainable society, what can we learn and what can we do? What are the opportunities? I think we have already discussed this today, unique human resources, the culture, indigenous people, reindeer herding, and things like this are also business opportunities. We have unique resources in fossil-free energy. It's actually one of few parts of the world where we can actually sustain the society with fossil-free energy with rather limited investments. You all know also that we have unique raw materials. We have unique raw materials for the greening economy. So all the critical commodities that the high-tech world needs, they exist in this part of the world. And that's also a definite business opportunity. And going into the bioeconomy, the same is true for that part of the puzzle. So if we can use our forests in a sustainable way, we can also build on the bioeconomy and the circular economy based on biomaterials and biofuels and so forth. And lastly, we have, of course, also unique resources in nature, tourism, fishery, and hunting, and many of you have already dwelled on this earlier. And I think this is also an area where we can build a lot of business opportunities in the future. Of course, then the bold question here is how can they interact for the common good? Because there are also challenges with these different unique resources, and I'll come back to that in a while. I just want to show one case where I think we have moved forward, and that's in this Norwegian project, which was funded by the Nordic Council. It was a project that we established to try to give a joint Nordic Greenlandic view on how we can utilize the mineral resources in a sustainable way. And I think the evaluation of this project was very positive. And one thing that I find worthwhile in doing this collaborative project is that they establish networks. And those networks, they exist even after the project is finished. So the team behind this Norwegian project has been active together in many European projects after the finalization of Norwegian. So I think that's underestimated value of Nordic collaboration, that it's long-lasting and it can achieve things long after the projects are ended. I think I jump this picture and finalize with a few words of the future, and of course very much into the unknown on sustainable and competitive business opportunities. So I think if we look into the fossil-free energy production, that's a huge future for this part of the world. And the challenge here, of course, is the grid and distribution of this fossil-free energy. And I think authorities need to solve these issues in order to capitalize on the enormous potential that we have in the fossil-free energy area. Some of you might have heard about projects now on fossil-free steel production, which are coming up here in Sweden, and I believe also partly on the Finnish side. Here the challenge, of course, is that it's upscaling of unproven technologies. So there we need to put a lot of emphasis on research and partly also education, because a lot of these skills are not available in this part of the world today. The sustainable sourcing of these critical raw materials I talked about for the batteries, for the solar, for the wind, etc. A huge opportunity in this part in the Barents area. But here the challenge is the permitting processes and the competition for land and the social license to operate. You all know that there are conflicts involved in this, and they need to be solved in order to capitalize on this potential. And of course, green sustainable tourism, we can do much more, and that can grow substantially in a sustainable way, I think, in this part of the world. We are not only looked upon us as a part of the world where we can establish the fossil-free society, but also part of the world where people would like to come and visit from the point of view of green sustainable tourism. So I think here, again, the challenge, I think, is the competition for land. And finally, I think the bioeconomy, it's a huge potential in all our countries. If we think clever about this, it's also a potential growth market for us. And here, of course, there are challenges like the EU taxonomy, and again, the competition for land. So that's a very brief and short description from my side on what I believe are key possible success areas for a growing business in this area. And I wished I had been 20 years younger in order to be part of this fantastic future of the Barents region. So all the youngsters and the students that have been here today, you are to be congratulated for having the opportunity to be part of a bright future. So with this very short presentation, I thank you all for listening.
Thank you for a great talk. We have now been through education, research, innovation, collaboration, and business development, all of which have different values in the process of making the future better than today. I would like to give a big thank you to all speakers of the session that you shared your knowledge with us, and thank you all to the attendees that have been listening to this session. With this, I conclude this part of the program and hand over to Mikael Bergström for the concluding remarks.
Thank you, Katrina. You've done a great job moderating this session. Dear friends, Norway has been very pleased to co-host this meeting together with Finland. It is therefore a pleasure for me to give the floor to Mr. Jari Vilén, incoming chair of the Committee of Senior Officials, please.
And thank you everybody for excellent presentations. I've been listening the whole day, all the performances, all the presentations, and I have to say that I'm truly impressed. What we have and what we are doing together and what lies ahead of us. I have to say that somehow I felt nostalgia in a way that was said just the previous speaker, that I wish I would be a bit younger to be able to grasp the opportunities what the Barents is giving to us and what kind of new future we are building in here. I think and if it's extremely difficult to try to draw any genuine conclusions with the discussion that was so rich on the substance. But I think something which is a binding red line with all of these speeches is definitely a question of climate and sustainability, and various efforts that we're trying to tackle the challenges that we're facing at the moment, especially for the interest of our youngsters, interest of the future, and interest of the youth, that what we are having and what we are anticipating to happen in there. But these messages, despite the enormous challenges that we're having at the moment and the challenges that we have to be able to address, I also feel that there's a lot of optimism. There's optimism that we do have the tools, we have the technology. The question is more about the will, the political will, and will among ourselves to do what we can, either whether it's a political, whether it's a global, whether it's regional, or whether it's a personal one. Finland would like to congratulate the Norway one more time for the enormous efforts what you have done during the 2 years of your presidency. As I said by our minister in the very beginning of today's session, the presidency that has been totally unexpected. Nobody would imagine this kind of presidency to happen, and you were able to transform it to digital format and actually giving to all of us for the benefit of the Barents the digital leap for the future that everybody else will be benefiting in the future, and I think will become part of our work in the future. You have also given the guidance to us how to continue. Finland as a presidency for the coming 2 years will be continuing these same principles with the same tasks and same missions, and we're looking forward very much for the meeting next week in Tromsø in Norway, where the ministers will make the necessary decisions of new climate action plans for the Barents and make other decisions concerning the future tools that we have in our hands for this work. We have to wait a bit longer, but when the decision is taken, we will do our